How can you protect yourself from people who've hurt you? And how should you treat those who have hurt you? Many of us find ourselves in the situation of having to constantly suffer malice, insults, and hatred from someone. It can happen at work, among friends, and even in the family. But beyond the context in which it occurs, what really matters is the pain that these experiences bring with them. In fact, when they treat us badly, invisible but extremely painful wounds are created in us, wounds of which we often carry the scars for our entire lives. In the Zen story you will hear soon, you will discover how to defend yourself and your inner peace from these people. So, stay until the end because, thanks to the Buddhist wisdom and practical advice we will give you, you will know exactly what is the only way that works to preserve your emotional balance and push away certain individuals. But before continuing, if you are not yet one of us, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to stay updated when we publish new content for your spiritual and personal growth. In the heart of Japan, nestled among the centuries-old trees of a forest, there was an ancient Buddhist monastery surrounded by serenity and tranquility. There resided the venerable Master Chen, a man of profound wisdom and compassion, whose words were like a beacon to his devoted disciples. At his side, his followers learned the teachings of the Buddha, seeking to cultivate inner peace and compassion towards all living beings. One day during one of the evening lessons, one of the young disciples expressed his frustration regarding the injustices he had suffered at the hands of people who had taken advantage of his good faith, hurting him deeply. Master Chen Liang said, "Buddha teaches us compassion towards others, but how can we remain impassive in the face of those who harm us? It's not right that they systematically exploit and offend us. It's not right to always turn the other cheek without these people suffering consequences." Master Chen, with a serene smile, invited his disciples to sit in a circle around him. Then, he took a stone and threw it into the water of the pond. "Watch the waves that form," said the master, "and observe how the movement of the stone creates an effect on the surrounding water." The disciples watched intently as the waves spread from the point of impact of the stone, radiating outward until they reached the shores of the pond. Just as waves ripple through water, the monk continued, our actions and reactions impact the world around us, but we must learn to discern when it is best to let go, and when it is best to let go, necessary to act in some way. Then the master told them a story that directly concerned the Buddha. It is said that one day, while the Buddha was walking through a village, a man heavily insulted him, pouring out a cascade of abusive words and threats. Chen said, the disciples, shocked by what happened, expected the Buddha to react, but he remained calm and silent, continuing his walk without showing any sign of irritation or resentment. When the Buddha was out of sight of the man, one of his disciples, in disbelief, asked, "Master, how could you remain so calm in the face of such offensive words? Why didn't you respond to defend yourself?" The Buddha smiled at his disciple and replied, "Imagine that someone offers you a sweater as a gift, but you do not accept it. Who does that gift belong to?" The disciple replied, "If I do not accept it, the gift remains with the one who offered it to me." "Exactly," said the Buddha. "The same goes for offensive words and threats. If you don't accept them, if you don't react to them, they stay with the person who said them. Remember, my dears, that reacting with resentment and anger is equivalent to ingesting poison, hoping that it will harm others. But in the end, it is we ourselves who suffer the most damage." The disciples, after listening carefully, began to reflect on Master Chen's words, on the story of the Buddha, and on the precious teaching of not reacting to the provocations of others. And as they recalled episodes in which they had been involved, They began to understand that ignoring is not a sign of weakness, but rather a form of wisdom and inner control. Master Chen, to reinforce the concept he had just conveyed to his disciples, took them to a quiet place inside the monastery and began to talk about human suffering. He explained that those who harm others are often trapped in a cycle of pain and dissatisfaction. He who insults and harms others, said Master Chen, does not know true happiness because his mind is darkened from anger, jealousy, and frustration. Before continuing, we ask you, what do you think about this topic? Leave a comment and let's talk together. Also, if you are enjoying the video, please like and share it. Thus, you will help us produce new valuable content every day. And now, let's continue. As the disciples reflected on the Master's words, trying to understand his point of view, Chen continued, think about when you are happy. At such times, do you need to insult and hurt others to feel good? The disciples shook their heads in denial. Exactly, said Master Chen. True happiness does not come from hurting others, but by cultivating love, compassion, and inner peace. So, my dear disciples, when someone treats us badly and causes us pain, we must stop for a moment and reflect on three things. The first is that reacting with anger will hurt us more than it will hurt him. Indeed, if he provoked us, it's because he wants to see our reaction. Not seeing it, he will be deeply disappointed and will have something to reflect on. The second thing to think about is that if that person behaves like this, it is because, in reality, they are very unhappy and dissatisfied with themselves. People who are well, who have emotional balance, are too focused on their well-being to think about harming others. And the third thing you need to think about when someone hurts you is that the only action you should take is to continue on your way, feeling compassion for him. The disciples, impressed by Chen's wise words and newly learned teachings, reflected on how to implement these suggestions in their daily lives. One of them, echoing the thoughts of many others, asked, Master Chen, I am truly grateful for your precious teachings. However, it is very difficult not to react to certain attitudes. When someone hurts you deeply, leaving deep scars, most of us human beings react instinctively or are too hurt to remain helpless. How can we work on ourselves to make it easier for us to ignore these individuals and continue on our path? Chen smiled and, looking his disciples in the eyes, replied, It is understandable that it is difficult for you to ignore and not react to abuse. For this reason, my dears, listen very carefully to the advice I am about to give you. The first thing you need to do is cultivate inner awareness. Before reacting to an offense or injustice, it is important that you become aware of your emotions and thoughts. Often, anger and resentment arise from our instinctive reaction. If, however, we stop for a moment to reflect, we will have the opportunity to better understand the situation and prevent it from degenerating. Practicing patience in our daily lives is another practical exercise that I suggest you carry out. Remember that patience is a precious virtue that helps us maintain calm even in the face of the worst provocations. Learn to meditate every day, carving out moments just for yourself and for the practice of patience. Then, when someone treats you badly, take a deep breath and give yourself a moment to reflect. This will help you avoid impulsive reactions that could make the situation worse. Cultivating compassion is another important piece you need to work on. Even when someone hurts us, it is important to remember that that person may be driven by suffering or ignorance. I assure you that if you practice cultivating compassion, you will learn to see beyond the negative actions of others and to respond with kindness rather than anger. Another piece of advice you should follow, my dears, is to recognize the impermanence of things. Everything in life is transitory, including the offenses and injustices we suffer. Remembering that nothing is eternal allows us not to give too much importance to negative events and to let go of the desire for revenge or immediate justice. Furthermore, my dears, focus on the good even in the most difficult situations. If you think about it, there is always something positive to focus on, and keeping an optimistic outlook on life helps us overcome difficulties and not let the negative actions of others influence us negatively. While the disciples, satisfied with this important lesson, were preparing to show their gratitude to Master Chen, the monk looked at them smiling and added, "Remember that, in the face of evil and offenses, true strength lies in not reacting and in ignoring those who hurt us. Because in the end, the real goal is to achieve inner peace, mental well-being, and emotional balance. And ignoring those who hurt us does not mean avoiding conflicts or hiding emotions, but rather finding the strength and wisdom necessary to respond calmly and compassionately."